I wasn't supposed to be home that night. A last-minute flight cancellation dropped me back into my hometown 6 hours earlier than planned. I didn't even call my wife, Lauren. I thought I'd surprise her. We'd been distant lately, and I figured maybe a spontaneous hug and a home-cooked dinner would help fix what felt broken. But what I walked into was hell dressed up as a house party. As I pulled into our driveway, I noticed unfamiliar cars packed tightly along the street. Music thumped through the walls, and colored lights flickered through our living room curtains. Confused, I quietly slipped my keys into the door, expecting maybe a surprise welcome home party. What I saw next made my blood run cold. Lauren was in the center of our living room, drink in hand, laughing, surrounded by half-dressed strangers. And then she kissed a man I had never seen before. Not a quick peck, a full-on, intimate kiss right there, in my house, on my rug, in front of our wedding photos, and everyone cheered. I didn't walk in. I watched, from the shadows. I recorded everything on my phone. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. Not yet. Because revenge is best served after you've seen everything. For a moment, I just stood frozen, heart pounding, mind racing. The laughter, the music, the clinking of glasses, all of it suddenly felt like the soundtrack to my own nightmare. Every face in that room, once familiar or at least friendly, now felt like a traitor's mask. Lauren's eyes met mine for a split second, and I swear the shock on her face was almost worse than the scene itself. But instead of pulling away or apologizing, she smirked, as if daring me to confront her. I slipped back outside, barely able to breathe. I had no idea how long this party had been going on or how many people were involved. Had she planned this while I was away? Who were all these people? Friends? Strangers? People I'd trusted? My mind flashed back to the subtle signs I'd ignored. Late-night texts, vague excuses, distant phone calls. Was this all just a setup? A twisted betrayal? I pulled out my phone and started recording discreetly, capturing the damning evidence I never expected to find in my own home. As I watched Lauren with that man, whose name I didn't know, but whose presence was searing in my mind, I realized this wasn't just about infidelity. This was a calculated humiliation, a betrayal on every level. But I wasn't going to lose myself in anger or despair just yet. I was going to plan my move. Revenge wouldn't be impulsive. It had to be precise, unforgettable. I took a deep breath, dialing a number I hadn't called in months, a close friend who owed me one. "You won't believe what's happening here," I whispered. "I need your help." The night was far from over, and the real game was just beginning. I knew I couldn't face this alone. Betrayal like this didn't just hurt. It cut deep, twisting every memory into doubt. So, after that call, my old friend Jason showed up within the hour. Jason wasn't just any friend. He was someone who knew the meaning of loyalty, and he had a sharp mind for plans. We sat in my car across the street, the party's wild laughter echoing faintly behind us. I told him everything, the cheating, the betrayal, the public humiliation, and how Lauren's audacity had shattered the life we built. Jason listened carefully, nodding, his face hardening with every detail. "We need proof, more than just what you recorded," he said. "We'll need to document everything so no one can deny it." We agreed on a plan to gather undeniable evidence, not just the party, but every secret meeting, every lie. The goal wasn't just revenge for the moment. It was to expose the whole truth. But more than that, I realized this was about taking back control. Lauren had thrown a party to humiliate me, but now the tables were turning. I wasn't just going to walk away broken, I was going to make sure everyone knew what had happened. As the night deepened, the calls started coming, friends, family, even strangers who had caught wind of the chaos. Rumors were already swirling. I knew the damage was spreading, but it also meant my story was about to come out. Jason and I stayed late, drafting messages, planning how to reveal the truth at the right time. It was a dangerous game, but if I played it right, I'd come out stronger. Little did Lauren know, her biggest mistake wasn't the party. It was underestimating me. Days passed, but the tension inside our home was suffocating. Lauren tried to act normal, laughing with her friends as if nothing had happened. But I knew better. Behind that forced smile was guilt, fear, and perhaps even arrogance that she thought she could get away with everything. With Jason's help, I started uncovering pieces of the puzzle that explained why and how this betrayal went so far. It wasn't just a one-night mistake or a moment of weakness. It was a carefully orchestrated plan involving some of our closest acquaintances. I discovered secret messages between Lauren and a few of her friends, mocking me, planning the party, and even betting on how long it would take for me to find out. The cruelty was staggering. Even more shocking was finding out that one of Lauren's best friends had been quietly helping her cover everything up. Each discovery cut deeper. It wasn't just the physical betrayal. It was the emotional manipulation and the sheer disrespect for everything we had built. But I didn't confront her immediately. I wanted to gather enough evidence to make sure there was no room for denial. Every message, every secret meeting was saved. Every whispered lie was recorded. As I pieced it all together, I realized this was bigger than just Lauren's infidelity. It was a toxic web of deception woven by people I once trusted. The suspense built as I waited for the perfect moment to strike. I wasn't going to just leave quietly. I was going to bring the truth crashing down on them all. Every day that passed felt like walking on a knife's edge. Lauren's double life was no longer a secret to me, but living with the truth was a torment I hadn't imagined possible. Each time I looked at her, I saw the lies lurking behind her eyes, the betrayal that had shattered the foundation of our marriage. Despite her efforts to act normal, I could feel the tension between us grow like a storm about to break. Friends started whispering when I walked into a room, and I noticed glances filled with pity or judgment. Lauren's carefully crafted facade was crumbling, but she still refused to face me honestly. The evidence I gathered was overwhelming. Photos from the party, secret chats exposing the conspiracy, and even recordings of Lauren admitting she didn't care about me anymore. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was furious. One evening, after a long day at work, I returned home early again. This time, the house was eerily quiet. The usual buzz of friends, the laughter, and music were gone. I found Lauren sitting in the living room, staring blankly at the floor. When she finally looked up, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. I confronted her calmly but firmly, laying out all the evidence, every message, every betrayal. Her defenses crumbled, tears streaming down her face as she tried to explain, but the damage was irreparable. At that moment, I realized there was no going back. The trust was destroyed, and so was the life we had promised to build together. But instead of breaking me, the pain ignited a fierce determination to take control of my story. That night, I made the decision to file for divorce, not out of anger, but because I deserved better. I was done being a victim. But just as I thought the storm was over, the real shock was yet to come. Just when I thought I had reached the end of this painful chapter, life threw me a curveball I never saw coming. The next morning, after filing the divorce papers, My phone began ringing incessantly. I glanced at the screen to see an unknown number flashing repeatedly. Reluctantly, I answered. It was Lauren's voice, trembling and barely audible. "Alex, I'm in the hospital. It's serious." My heart sank instantly. Despite everything, a part of me cared. I rushed to the emergency room, the fury and betrayal momentarily replaced by worry and confusion. When I arrived, I found out Lauren had collapsed unexpectedly. The doctors said it was stress-induced, her body giving out after weeks of emotional turmoil and exhaustion. But the real shock was yet to unfold. While sitting in the waiting room, I received a message from one of Lauren's friends, someone who had been part of the betrayal but now seemed desperate to make amends. The message contained information I had never expected. Lauren was pregnant. The child wasn't mine. The betrayal cut even deeper. This secret pregnancy was the final twist that shattered any hope I had left. Yet, amid the chaos, I realized something important. I had to focus on myself, my future, and my healing. No matter how tangled this web was, I had to find a way out stronger than before. The news hit me like a freight train. Lauren's pregnancy, and the fact that the child wasn't mine, felt like the final betrayal. But instead of breaking me, it sparked a resolve deep within. I knew I had to reclaim my life, my dignity, and my future. With the divorce process underway, I focused on gathering all the evidence to protect myself legally. The pictures, messages, recordings, they weren't just proof. They were my shield against any false claims or manipulation. Friends and family began rallying around me, offering support I hadn't realized I needed so badly. People I thought were distant reached out, and some even shared their own painful stories of betrayal and healing. It made me feel less alone, stronger. I started therapy to work through the anger and heartbreak, realizing that revenge wouldn't heal me, but self-respect and growth would. Slowly, I began rebuilding my life piece by piece. Meanwhile, Lauren's world was unraveling too. Her friends turned away. The pregnancy became public knowledge, and the house that once held our memories now felt empty and hollow. One thing was clear. The woman who had thrown that cruel, cheating party, who had orchestrated such pain, had underestimated the power of resilience. I wasn't just a victim. I was a survivor ready to start a new chapter. The day came when I decided to reveal everything. With the help of Jason and a few trusted friends, I organized a private gathering. Not a party, but a moment of truth. I invited everyone who had been involved, every so-called friend who had laughed at my pain, every liar who thought they could hide behind secrets. As they arrived, I played the recordings, showed the messages, and displayed the photos, clear evidence of the betrayal that had been hidden in plain sight. Lauren's face went pale, and the room fell into stunned silence. The shock of exposure hit harder than any confrontation ever could. But I wasn't there to humiliate. I was there to reclaim my dignity and close that painful chapter once and for all. After the gathering, I walked away from that toxic mess with my head held high. I had lost a marriage, yes, but I had gained my self-respect and a renewed sense of strength. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was mine to choose. In the end, Lauren's cheating party became the catalyst for my liberation and the start of a new, honest life.